Welcome back. In this lecture, we're going to talk about your audience, and it's important to know your audience. I read a book once that had a really a big impact on my life. It's called The Power of Empathy by C.R.M. McCauley, and we'll send you a link to purchase the book. It's a really good read. And in the book, he opens up a very rich understanding of what empathy is and what that emotion is built from. But at a high level, you need to understand the difference between sympathy and empathy. Sympathy is, I could feel your pain. You stubbed your toe and my toe hurts and I hurt for you. Empathy is very different. Empathy is I could understand your experience that's being filtered through your own worldview, your own frame. I could put myself in your shoes, not necessarily emotionally, but I could recognize that you're having a completely, fundamentally different life experience than I am. That we could both look at a scene, we could both look at an object, we could both look at a movie or read a book or have a conversation, and the way I'm processing that information, the experience that I'm having is very different than yours. So there's a big difference between what is there and what is true and what is being experienced. And empathy is the ability to access that sort of split vision, being able to see what is there and what is true. And when we talk about getting to know your audience, we're going to do market research, you're going to read stuff, you're going to figure out which platforms your audience and your customers are hanging out on. But ultimately, all of that's very useless unless you could empathize with your customers. Another another quote of mine from Claude Hopkins that I really like, same sort of father of modern advertising that we mentioned earlier in this course. He says that when he was hiring copywriters, he found a college degree to be a serious demerit. If somebody had a college degree, they were much less likely to get the job because he felt that a certain vocabulary and a certain education and a certain experience away in college at that time, it decreased the person's empathetic sensors. They didn't understand the common man and the common woman, the common consumer, enough to write compelling copy, to write compelling ads that connected with the consumer on an emotional level. So this is why it's really important to get to know your audience. The four big questions when we talk about understanding your audience is, what are you actually selling? Okay, now this is a loaded question. You're selling a product, you're selling a service. Oftentimes it's a commodity, right? Like if you're a plumber, you're a lawyer, you're an accountant, you run events, you're selling fashion, you're selling hats or clothing, or look, you might have your own line. It might be unique and proprietary, but there's nothing new under the sun. So you're selling a product, that's one layer. What differentiates your product is another layer. The best layer to really understand is how does this product or service make your customer feel? And what are the important peripheral emotions around it, right? So let's just take two examples. Take a plumber. All right. What is empathize with somebody who's calling a plumber, right? If you're an ordinary plumber, you're getting a call from the customer and immediately your sort of typical defense mechanisms are up. It's another customer. How am I going to extract more money from him? The customer's probably going to try to take advantage of me. The customer might not pay my bill. It's okay, slow down. Maybe the customer has just moved into a new house and there's a leak in the living room, damaging a brand new couch that the husband and wife fought over for 6 months. And this is such a painful experience for them. And it's so urgent. And there's so many complex emotions. What is that feeling like? And what is that customer looking for in the moment? They're looking for service, respect, a listening ear, a sense of expertise, a certain level of know-how and competence, speed, right? Like, okay, so now how do you behave as an advertiser to communicate that that's the type of emotional experience that a customer is going to get? You're in fashion. You're selling women's pumps or hats. Okay. What differentiates your hats or your shoes or your line? What differentiates your products from everything else that's out there? What type of feeling is a customer going to get? What are they seeking? What type of feeling is the customer seeking when they're buying stuff like yours? Is it status? Is it sex appeal? Is it a certain like confidence, comfort, a look? These are all different things, and every single hat and every single pair of shoes and every single type of clothing is going to carry with it its own sort of underlying proverbial fabric. And you want to address and, I would say, embellish and build up those emotions that customers are seeking. So what you're actually selling is all about understanding the commodity, the actual product at a superficial level, or the service, understanding the next layer down, like what is different between you and the next person, the next ad, the next competitor. But really, 3, what experience is somebody after that's leading them to buy something like this and maybe buy something from you? And there is always, always, always an experience somebody is after, because we do not buy crap. I mean, we buy crap all the time, but we don't buy it unless we're seeking an experience and we anticipate getting some experience from it, from the most prosaic, simple notebook to a more elegant fountain pen, to a coffee mug, to everything you see around you, to everything you have purchased. There's an experience that you're seeking, and the best marketers, the best advertisers can develop the vocabulary to understand those experiences. Okay, who are you selling to? What are the key demographics, psychographics, and characteristics and attributes of the people buying from you? Now, this seems like a question that's really hard to answer, because you're going to say, well, I cater to all different sorts of ages and genders and income brackets. Okay, great, good. Now, first ask yourself, is that really true? Is your product for everybody? It's like, well, a vacuum cleaner is not for everybody. A sofa is not for everybody. A plumbing service is not for everybody. So you could look at your price. You could look at the level of service. You could look at your products, and you could really start narrowing down who you're selling to. Is it people that have typically gone through a certain life event, like a graduation or purchasing a new home or a death? Figure out who you're selling to. That's going to allow you to tailor and write good advertising. We were recently running a campaign, developing a campaign for a roofing company in Nashville, Tennessee. Okay, look, roofing is a service. Home service is a big industry, but it's like relatively commoditized. Like everyone sort of does the same thing. And how do you differentiate yourself? And we started understanding like who are we selling to? Okay, we're selling to Nashville residents. And Nashville is like a city with a lot of personality, a lot of history, a lot of pride, a lot of identity. And we began developing ad copy that sort of looked at a roof over your head as an analogy for a recording studio, and the personality of an artist that plays through the rain, plays through the snow, plays through the storm, the show must go on type of motif. And that speaks to the Nashville population's sense of strength, sense of resilience, and that this company, our client, believed that roofs have to be the same way in Nashville. They have to perform in every possible condition, with conflict, adverse weather events, and so on and so forth. But again, it's understanding the emotional experience that you're going after and who you're actually selling to. Where will you reach them? Now we're getting a little bit more tactical. This is when we develop an understanding of the platforms, right? So you're going to learn about Meta and TikTok and Google and out of home. Where are these people actually hanging out? And don't answer this question based on where you think these people are hanging out. I can't tell you how many times I've been told by a client, oh, older people are not on TikTok, and they're wrong. Or only older people are on Facebook, and they're wrong. So this is an easy question to answer. There's market research available, and we at the Modern Marketing Institute have made it very easy, and we give you all the resources to do this type of market research. And lastly, and this is the question that's always evolving, or it's evolving the most, what's happening around them right now? You should be reading the news. If you're not reading the news, at least periodically, you're gonna miss a lot of the events, political events, environmental events, that are impacting, economic events that are impacting customers within your target market. So if you could understand what's happening around them now, and a good example I always like to give is like, when a person receives their paycheck, it has an enormous impact on discretionary spending in the United States and abroad. So that's an event, right? Like if I'm marketing on the second Wednesday or the third Wednesday of the month, a few days after a potential customer receives their second monthly paycheck, I'm more likely to get a sale because there's more discretionary spending, because most of the first paycheck is used for somebody's utilities and core living expenses. Now there's discretionary spending available at the end of the month. Okay, that's one data point. It's a small thing. And that's not the totality of your strategy, but it's something, right? It's like, what is happening around them now? That could be today. It could be time-based. It could be weather-based. It could be event-based. It could be life event-based, right? It could be an intrinsic, what's happening around. We have a client that's a large wedding venue, sort of real estate manager developer, and they sell and rent out ultra luxury premium wedding venue locations. So like really getting into the mindset of what it's like to plan for a wedding and what it's like to choose a wedding venue is really, really important, because it's very different than renting out a hall for a company party. So what's happening around them right now, it's like you as an advertiser need to understand what is happening around the person who's planning for a wedding. Very important. So to make this easier and to make this more structured for you, we developed the Buyer Breakthrough Blueprint. It's all of this that we've been speaking about as almost like a self-journaling exercise that you're going to do, that helps you understand the moment a customer is ready to buy and building your marketing around the understanding of that moment. Let me show you this workbook, and I'm excited for you guys to all go through it and fill it out. You're gonna have access to download this workbook right below this module. You could open it up in a Word doc or print it out, but it's really important, and I would really suggest you take a few minutes to fill it out. Here's just an introductory page that gets you right into the mindset, understanding that defining an audience does sound simple, but in reality, it could be pretty complicated. So this breaks it down into some sort of simple steps. So number one, section 1 is meeting the moment. So instead of starting with like age, location, start at the moment the product enters their life. First question, what's going wrong in their life when they start looking for something like what you sell? So with our plumber, it might be a leak. With a wedding venue, right? Like it might not be something wrong, but you frame it as a problem. It's like, okay, well, we're getting married, or a child's getting married, or a cousin's getting married, and it's our job to find a wedding venue. And what went wrong is that we don't have one, and we need it. And there's a lot of pressure, and there's a lot of whatever. So what's frustrating, broken? What keeps them up at night? And this is where you think about, this is where empathy begins to kick in. Put yourself in the customer's shoes. I'm searching for a wedding venue. Who's yelling at me? What texts am I getting? What am I feeling when I'm laying in bed at 2 o'clock in the morning and we haven't settled on a location? Am I not getting enough good photography and images on the site? Is the pricing too unclear? Do they not make it easy for me to work with the caterer that I want? Has the party planner had a bad experience with the venue that my future mother-in-law really wants? Okay, like build the story and write those things down. What are they Googling at 11 p.m. the night before they buy from you, right? So if they're like sort of in a death scroll moment, what other searches are they performing? Is there additional educational searches that are maybe not on your site that they're looking for? Again, put yourself in the shoes of the person who really needs this product based on the frustrations and the answers that you came up with for question 1, and just get like a really simple sense of what Google searches they might perform. And this, maybe go to Google and do it yourself. Like put yourself through put yourself through that journey. What do they think their problem is, and what's actually causing it? There's a gap between surface pain and root cause. Try closing that gap. Okay, so if you're going back to the wedding venue, maybe the surface pain is we haven't booked a venue yet. Maybe the root cause, and like, I'm really frustrated, but maybe the root cause is I don't know what the hell I'm doing, and I don't know enough about booking venues, and I've never done this before. And I don't know if this is a fair deposit to pay up front that they're asking. Like, I'm really frustrated at myself, and I'm feeling a lot of this pressure and urgency because this is a new, complicated, high stakes experience for me. So maybe you as the marketer could start closing those gaps with more thorough website content, more educational content, more security, validity, trust, etc. Section 2 is where you're going to zoom out and then zoom in. I'm going to read through these questions quickly because a lot of them are self-explanatory, and it's much more important for you to get into this. And of course, if you have questions, and we could always discuss. Now, what excuses or false beliefs are keeping them stuck? What have they already tried that didn't work? This is where you start getting good competitive intelligence. What's the worst case scenario they fear? Like, what would happen in their life if they don't get this solution? Is this a pleasure buy? Is it a vacation? Is it a luxury good? Is it a need, right? Like, categorizing your product or service in that rubric is really important because that's also going to show you and reveal the good promotional strategies down the road in your marketing. What dream outcome are they chasing? Like, what would be best case scenario? Section 3, we're going to go inside their head, right? You want to talk in their language, the words that they understand, their vernacular, the industry phrases, the technical speak. You want to talk to people in the dialect that they really understand. And that doesn't mean you use superlatives like, oh, best ever, #1 selling. If those things are true, great, use them. But that, just because everybody understands it, it doesn't mean that it's their language. It's a big difference between simple language that everybody understands and language that is unique to a type of product or a service. What exact words or phrases do they use when they talk about this problem? Are they searching for a model number? Are they searching for a certain type of skill or strategy or technique? What do they believe about people who buy things like yours? What is the identity? What is the group identity of somebody who buys? And it's really easy to think about this as a sports fan, religious identities, parents, right? Like, there's a shared identity. If a parent meets a parent at the park, there's an automatic shared identity. So if I'm a lover of leather goods, what do I think about other people who love leather goods? What emotional trigger pushes them over the edge? And over the edge means, you know what? I've been thinking about fixing this, and now I'm going to actually fix this. And oftentimes that's a deep emotion. So thinking through your product, your service, there could be a buyer's journey that lasts years and years, where it's always in the back of my mind, I want to purchase something. But what is the trigger that pushes me over the edge? Having the money to do it is not the answer. Sometimes it's the answer that allows me to actually buy it. But that's only because I've passed the emotional trigger previously. So money is not the answer here. We're always assuming that the audience member has enough money today to buy it, because of course there's all sorts of extrinsic, I would say, barriers that can be in place, but they're like, it's an either or dynamic. If I don't have the money, then you're not my audience. If I have the money, I could buy it. But then I have the money, but I haven't bought it because there's something else going on. And that thing is subtler. It's not as easy to grab. It's emotional. And what changes in my life and in my brain and in my mind and in my own orbit that pushes me into the purchase cycle? And what, number 11, what version of themselves do they want to become, and what's the quick win that makes them feel that progress fast? And this is really important, right? This goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning, the experience. What experience is somebody seeking with your product or service? What version of themselves do they want to become? And you might think that, oh, this is so like flowery and it's BS, because like, how do I apply this to my example of the plumber? But it's not true. I have a leak. I have a busted pipe, I call a plumber. Or the hot water's coming out of the cold faucet and the cold water's coming out of the hot faucet. I call a plumber. So then I would say, like, what version of myself do they want to become? I want to become the version of myself that can competently go to sleep tonight saying, I took care of a difficult issue in my home. I got a good deal. I worked with good people. And if I could have accomplished that, I'll feel good about how I conducted business. And that is a version of myself. That is a type of person. Yeah, I want also the version of my home to have been repaired. I want a repaired home, but I also want to know that I sort of played a role in a high quality repair by choosing and working with a high quality vendor. Here's a bunch of lines, because this is I wanted to give you more space here for this question. If a customer reads your website or saw your ad and said, this is exactly what I've been looking for, what would you have written? So this is a template for your website copy, for your ad copy. And this is an empathetic exercise, right? You're in the market for the product, your product, and you read something and it's like, that's exactly what I need. What would those words be? And don't worry about writing short. Here's where you want to write long, write stream of consciousness, just put it all out on the paper, and we edit for landing page content, you edit for ad copy later. Now, once you've done all that, you have an actual framework to work with. You're so many steps ahead in writing compelling ad copy, writing compelling landing page copy, and determining which platforms you actually want to spend your advertising dollars on. On top of the blueprint, we built a CustomGPT agent that's going to be your companion as you think through some of these tougher, more difficult, empathetic questions. This GPT companion is built specifically with the Modern Marketing Institute's take on audience research and empathetic role-playing in deciding how to best spend your marketing budget, where to spend it, and the right messaging that you want to think through to really reach the emotional core of your audience. So let me just show you briefly how this GPT works and some of the really cool, fun things you can do with it. So once you follow the link and you open up your CustomGPT, you're faced with 4 different templates that you could begin with. So for example, how can I uncover my buyer's top motivations? If I click that, you'll see that this GPT is completely trained on the buyer breakthrough blueprint. And it's going to walk you through step by step a blueprint, as the word describes, how to start thinking about who your audience is and triggering that empathetic muscle within yourself. So you have over here, meet the moment, zoom out, then zoom in, getting inside their head, what emotional triggers pushes them over the edge, how to gather these insight, and this is a more pragmatic set of suggestions where you could use surveys, customer interviews, review forums, emails, and you have a lot to chew on here and to work off of. But if you follow along and you use this CustomGPT as sort of like a brainstorming guide, you'll come out of this with a really, really great starting point for your landing page copy, or even polished landing page copy, ad copy, and an understanding of where and how to reach your target audience. So for example, I could also just directly chat with it. I might say, a plumber with 20 national locations. Can you help me identify the emotional triggers for customers calling about a leak in their house? Give examples for ad copy, landing pages, and ad copy and landing pages. And then using the Modern Marketing Institute's buyer breakthrough blueprint, this CustomGPT is going to output a very, very high quality starting point for you to begin digging into these emotional elements. So for example, emotional triggers for calling a plumber about a leak: fear of damage escalating, embarrassment or shame, financial panic, overwhelm, loss of control. These are 5 great emotional hooks that begin giving you a very rich landscape of landing page copy, ad copy, and overall messaging, and just overall like thinking about who these people are and what they're experiencing. That's the main point of this exercise. So fear of damage escalating. Like, what if this water ruins the floors and the walls? Financial panic. Is this going to cause thousands and thousands of dollars? These are the questions, these are the fears your customers are grappling with. So instead of just having like a boring run-of-the-mill like landing page about your leak service or your plumbing service for fixing leaks, like same way that every other single plumber on the planet has, you have such a head start by talking to these emotional fears about the costs associated, about mold, about whether or not a customer's floors will be ruined in the event of certain types of leaks. Provide that education. Help address some of the customer emotions and the fears and the panic. And if you do that, your customer is not only entering into a real relationship with you as a potential vendor, but they're beginning to push closer and closer to a purchasing decision that includes you in their consideration set. And this is true with a plumber, and it's true with any other type of product. And over here we have some ad copy examples. Leaks spreading fast, will be there in 90 minutes before it turns into a flood. It's a great headline. It shows that you understand their fear. It shows that you're a company that acts with a tremendous amount of speed. And you understand that if this is not taken care of now, it could turn into a flood. So I highly suggest that you play around with this ChatGPT. When you're writing your ad copy and you're thinking of your landing page and you're thinking of your messaging and you're doing your market research, have this open on a side on your desktop and talk to it, show it your products, describe your services, describe who you think your audience is, and see how the blueprint that we've created for you helps show and reveal to you all these different interesting angles and nuances within the customer experience that you might not have otherwise thought of. And we hope you find a lot of use out of it. In the very next module, we're going to talk about media plan, dollars and cents, another really core and important skill that every modern marketing expert has to know and be able to do well. We'll see you there.